Assalamualaikum guys, my name is Safillah Sheikh and we will be starting with the Mathematics Syllabus D Paper 2 of October-November 2025, Variant 2. Let's start with the paper without wasting much of our time. Question number 1, it states that we're supposed to work out this particular fraction. Now keep in mind you were just supposed to plug in all of these values in the calculator as it is. Don't just do any changes, just copy paste it literally. It's 75.66 minus 40.23 upon 2.19, and this should be 16.178. This is 16.178. Now, since the examiner wanted us to give the answer in two decimal places, so we'll say 16.18. We round this off to 16.18. Right? Now, question number 2 states these are the scores of 12 students in a quiz, and we're supposed to find the median. Now this is an ungrouped data. The first thing that we're supposed to do is that we're supposed to write this in the ascending order. So I believe 10 is the smallest number, and after 10 we have 15, 16, and 16. So it should be 15, 16, and 16. After that we have 20, 21, 22. We have 20, 21, 22, and then we have 24, 27, and 32, 24, 27, and 32. And after that we have, well, actually we had 25 in between as well, so somewhere here we will be having 25, and lastly we have what? We have 35. Now just make sure that you have counted these correctly. So we'll count this for once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you have 12 numbers and we're supposed to find the median. How can we find the median? The formula for median term is basically median term is equals to n plus 1 upon 2. That is 12 plus 1 over 2, which gives us 6 point which is actually 6.5. How? This is basically 13 over 2, right? So 13 over 2 gives us 6.5, but keep in mind this is not the answer, this is the term number, 6.5th term. Let's count these. So what you're supposed to do is it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So somewhere in the middle of these numbers we will be having 6.5. So what we're going to do is we will be adding these two numbers, and then we'll be taking its average by dividing it with 2, and the answer should be 21.5. Now, for question 2 part B, it states that we're supposed to find the range. What is range? Range is basically maximum minus the minimum number. The maximum number is 35 and the minimum was 10, so it should be 35 minus 10. 35 minus 10, that gives us what? That gives us 25 as the answer. Question 3 says that Idris has 5 kg of rice. He cooks rice for 12 people. He uses 75 grams. He uses 5 grams for each person for up to 12 people, right? And then he has a total of 5 kg. Work out how much rice Idris has left over. So let's find out the rice consumed. The rice consumed is basically it's going to be 75 times 12, and this is going to be what? 75 into 12, 900 grams of rice was consumed, right? And to find out the leftover, what we're going to do is we are going to do total minus 900 grams, and we're supposed to answer it in grams as well. So we will have to convert this 5 kg into grams. We know that 1 kg is equals to 1000 grams, hence 5 kg would be equivalent to 5000 grams, and the leftover amount, or the leftover mass of this rice would be what? That would be 5000 minus of 900, and the answer should be 4100 grams, right? Let's move on. Now, question number 4, in a triangle ABC, AB is equals to 8.5, AC is equals to 6, and BC is equals to 7. Using a ruler and a compass, construct a triangle ABC. Side AB has been drawn for you. Now this side is 8.5. Now what we're going to do is, this is from the chapter of geometrical constructions. I have math pads with me, an online tool, and we'll do it from here. Now it says that AB is 8.5, AC is 6, and BC is 7. So AC 6 and BC is supposed to be 7. Let's name it AB, right? This is supposed to be A. This part is supposed to be A. This part is supposed to be B. right? And the examiner said that AC is supposed to be what? That is supposed to be 6. So what we'll do, now I drew this line already for 8.5 as the examiner drew it for us. Now we will be opening our compass for 6 centimeters. That would represent AC, right? We need to show that this is 6 centimeters like this. So let's check it if it's 6. Is it 6? It's not exactly 6. Now this is 6. So we'll lock it over here. Now what this means is I am going to uh wait. Yeah, so I'm going to draw an arc over here that this line would represent that this arc is 6 centimeters away from A. Now this whole line is 6 centimeters away from A. Now this C would lie somewhere on this line. Now similarly, we need to check for the other line. BC was supposed to be 7. Now what we'll do, we'll take our compass again and then we'll plot it here. And what we're going to do is we will check it for 7. This should be 7 now. So I'll unlock this and I'll make sure that this width is 7. Now we have this as 7 centimeters. I'll put my nib on B this time and then I'll apply an arc over here. I'll apply an arc over here, right? Wait. Yep, something like this. All right, this is going to be my arc. Now what this means is this intersecting point, let's remove this, we don't need this, um this and this. So what this means is this point is going to be known as C for us. Now this point would be, this point over here is C for us. Now what we'll do, we'll take a ruler and then we'll join this compass by, can we rotate this? I'm not sure if we can rotate this. um yeah, we can. So it's so difficult to do it digitally. All right, it's going to be something like this. The triangle would be like this. You just join the points like here, and same goes for the other case. Let's do it real quick. You're almost there. I think this should be it. Fine, and 9, and here we have it. Now this should be a triangle ABC by joining all the arcs. All right. Now if you want, you can erase all of these extra lines, all these extra lines that we have. If you want, you can erase these as well. Now let's see what the examiner has to say in the next part. That says measure the angle BAC. Now what we're going to do is we will try to trace what BAC is. This is my B, this is my A, and this is my C. So B, A, and C. B, A, and C. This is the line, or this is the angle that the examiner wanted us to measure basically, right? We will be measuring this part over here and right here, this part. Why can't I draw? Somewhere over, this is the angle that we're supposed to measure. Now how are we going to measure this? We'll take our compass with us. We will align this crosshair or the center origin of this with the angle A, and then 0 degrees with the baseline over here. Right, that's what we're going to do. Now we will be aligning this crosshair, the center origin, with the point A and the 0 degrees with the line AB, and then we will be reading the angle. The angle that we're supposed to read is basically the angle that starts at 0 degrees that we align with the baseline. So it's going to start from here, and the angle is somewhere around 54 or 55 degrees for this case. Right, so we can say that the answer is somewhere around 54 or 55 degrees, as you can see. So we will be writing the answer 55 over here. This should be 55. All right, now question number 5 says that Sophia invests $400 in a savings account. The account pays simple interest at a rate of 2.8% per year. Calculate the total amount of interest Sophia receives at the end of 3 years. So we're supposed to calculate the amount of interest. Now how do we calculate that? For simple interest, the formula is I is equals to PRT upon 100, where P is $400. P is what? That is $400. The principal amount, the rate is 2.8. The time is 3 years upon 100. Now this should give us the total amount of interest, and that should be 400 into 2.8 into 8 and divided by 100 into 3, sorry, 2.8 into 3 divided by 100, and this should give us somewhere around 33.6 as the value. Now this was the amount of interest. Part B says that Lewis invests $400 in a different savings account that also pays simple interest. The rate of interest for this account is 0.4 percentage per year more than the rate of Sophia's account. Calculate how much more interest Lewis receives each year than Sophia receives each year. Now, since this is simple interest, this is a linear progression. This is going to be a linear increment. So what that means is we can just simply calculate 0.4 percentage of 400, and that is for 1 year. So we'll just apply the rules of simple interest just like we do. So what we are going to do is 0.4, that is the rate, or we can do PRT times 100, actually PRT upon 100. So that would be PRT upon 100, and this should be what? 400 into 0.4 into time 1 divided by 100, and let's see what this gives us. 400 into 0.4 divided by 100, and the amount turns out to be $1.6. Now, had this been compound interest, we wouldn't have done it using the same method. So do keep that in mind. Now, question number 6 says the scale of a map is 1:5,000. The length of the path on the map is 8.3 centimeters. Work out the actual length of the map. Now, what this means is the map with respect to the actual distance is given, which is 1:5,000. And then it says that the length of the path on the map is 8.3. That means this value is 8.3 centimeters, and we need to find its respective values. We're going to cross multiply for such cases. Now what this means is this would basically turn out to be x is equals to 5,000 into 8.3, and this would be what? 5,000 into 8.3, and this value would be somewhere around 41500 centimeters. Because the value was in centimeters, the ratio is in same units. Now, the examiner said that we are supposed to answer it in meters, which means we will have to convert this as well. And we know that 1 meter is equals to 100 centimeters. Hence, I will have to divide this with 100, 41500 divided with 100, and the answer would turn out to be 415 meters. Question 7. Question 7 says that we are supposed to factorize 20x square minus 5xy. So we just simply take the common numbers. We have x in both, that is the common alphabet over here. And then we can take common 5, because 5 ones are 5 and 5 fours are 20. So we say 5x can be taken as common, and then we'll be left with 4x over here. And then we'll be left with, since we take 5 over here as common, so we'll be left with 1y. And that's going to be it. So it's going to be 5x bracket 4x minus y. This is what we can take as common. Now, question number 8, it says expand and simplify. This should be really easy. Now, for this question, what we're going to do is we're just going to multiply this term with this and this with this. Now, this would give us 4 3s is 12x plus 8, and then 5x plus 5x plus 5, and then 12 plus 5x is going to be 17x, and 5 plus 8 is going to be 13. So this should be 17x plus 13, and over here it was supposed to be 5x 4x minus y. Let's move on. The diagram shows a regular pentagon and a regular hexagon joined along one edge. We are supposed to find the value of x. Now, what will we do for this part? We need to find the value of x, considering that these are regular pentagons and regular hexagons. Now, penta means 5 sides and hexa means 6 sides. Now, we have a formula for finding each angle of a regular polygon, which is n minus 2 times of 180 divided with n. That gives me each angle. All right. And now we will use 5 and 6 one by one to find each of these angles of these polygons, right? Now, for if I use 5, now the answer for this would be 5 minus 2 into 180 over 5 is going to give us what? This would be 3 into 180 divided by 5. This is supposed to be 108. So this value turns out to be 108, and the other value would be what? That will be 6 minus 2 times 180 over 6, and that should be 4 into 180 divided by 6, and this should be 120 degrees. All right. Now, if I want to find x, what this means is that this complete, like these three angles combined, should be equivalent to 360 degrees. Now, what that means is 108 plus 120 plus x should be equivalent to 360 degrees, and the value for x would be 360 minus 120 minus 108, and this would be 132. Question 10. Question 10 states to work out 3a minus b. Now, for that, what we'll do is we'll do 3 times minus 3 and 4 minus of b, which is 8 and minus 2. So, 3 and 3, that gives us minus 9, and this 3 will be multiplied with this as well. Keep in mind that when vectors are multiplied with the scalar multiples, it's basically multiplied with both x and y. So for this part, what we're going to do is minus 9 and 12, and it's going to be minus 8 and minus 2. For the next part, it's going to be minus 9 minus 8, that is going to give us minus 17, and 12 plus 2 is going to give us 14. Now question 10b says that we're supposed to find a plus b, and then there's a modulus sign before and after a and b. So whenever you see this, it means the examiner wants you to find the magnitude. He wants you to find the magnitude of these vectors. Now, how can you find the magnitude? Let's do it real quick. First, we'll add a and b together. What was a? A was minus 3 and 4. A was minus 3 and 4. So minus 3 and 4 plus of b, and b was what? That was 8 and minus 2. Now let's do it. So when we add these first, this will basically be minus 3 plus 8, that gives us 5, and 4 minus 2, that gives us 2, and then we are supposed to find its magnitude. Now how can we find its magnitude? It's basically going to be under root of x square plus y square, where this value is x and the other value is y. This is x and this is going to be y. And what we can do is it's going to be under root of 5 square plus 2 square, and this should be under root of 25 plus 4, which gives us under root of 29, and this should be equivalent to under root of 29 would be what? This would be 5.38. 5.38. Question 11 says that a factory makes batteries. A batch of 2000 batteries are tested and 28 are found to be faulty. The factory makes 125,000 batteries. Calculate the number of these batteries that are expected to be faulty. Now, what do we do for this case? For this case, we will say the amount of batteries a factory makes and the amount that turns out to be faulty. So, out of every 2000 batteries, there are approximately 28 batteries that are faulty, right? So we'd say that 2000 results in 28, and similarly we need to find the amount of batteries that would be faulty if there are around 125,000 batteries made. So we will be doing this, and then what we'll do is we'll just simply cross multiply for this case, and what we can say is x times 2000 is equals to 28 into 125,000, and the value for x is going to be 28 into 125,000 divided by 2000, where this value and zeros would be cancelled, and it would be 28 into 125 upon 2, and this gives us 1750 as the answer. Question 12a from standard form states that we're supposed to write this in standard forms. Now keep in mind, when we're writing in standard forms, decimal after appears after one decimal place, after one digit, and we will be counting the number of decimal places 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So what we're going to say is this can be written as 3.72, and since we're moving the decimal on that side, it's going to be exponent of positive 8 for this case. work out this value. Now we can use this in calculators directly because this is paper 2 of O level. So what we can say is this is going to be 2.21 exponent 5 divided by 6.5 exponent 6, and this gives us 0.034 as the answer. The answer should be 0.034, but the examiner wants us in standard form. So what we'll do, we'll move the decimals again, 1, 2, and then what we're going to do is this will be written as 3.4 exponent of minus 2. Now you may be wondering, why do we do it for this case? Because for this case we removed the actual decimal was over here, and then we moved it on this side 8 decimal places, so hence we added a positive 8 for this case, whereas for this case the actual decimal was at this place, and then we moved it 2 decimal places to the right, hence it's going to be minus 2. So right means reduce, so that's why this was positive 8 and this is going to be negative of 2. Question 13. Question 13 says that these are the first 5 terms of a sequence. Find the next term of the sequence. Now, what will we do? Now, let's see. If we have a look at this sequence, 3 and 8, there's a difference of 5, and then 8 and 13, again a difference of 5, and then 13 and 18, again a difference of 5, and a difference of 5. That means the next sequence will also be with a difference of 5. So, with that being said, the answer should be 28. Now, part 2 says find an expression for the nth term of the sequence. Now, we need to know that we can find, since this is an arithmetic sequence because of the common difference being same, so it turns out to be Tn is equals to a plus d times n minus 1, where a is going to be the first number, which is going to be 3, plus d is the common difference, which is going to be 5, and n minus 1. We just solve this and we get a simple expression. It's going to be 3 plus 5n minus 5, and this should be 5n minus 2 as the expression for this case. So it should be what? It should be 5n minus of 2. Now it says Tn is the nth term of a different sequence. These are first 5 terms of this sequence, and then we need to find the value of T25. Now what sequence do we have? We have certain numerators and then we have certain denominators. Now what we're supposed to do is, let's see if we can develop any sort of relationship. Now if we have a look at a and b, let me zoom in real, apologies for that. If we have a look at the relationship between the first sequence given by the examiner and the sequences that we have, can we say that all the numerators are basically from the sequence that we already did over here? So that means if I want to find t of 25, I'll just plug in 25 in this case to find the numerator of this new sequence of this part b. So we will say t of 25 for the numerator would be what? For the numerator would be 5 times of 25 minus 2, and this should give us what? 5 times 25 minus 2, and this should give me 123 as the answer. Now keep in mind, this is just the numerator. But if we have a look at the denominators, now what do you think of these denominators? This is a bit of logic based quadratic sequence. Now if we have a look, these are basically squares. Now this is a square of 2, this is a square of 3, this is a square of 4, and this is a square of 5, and this is a square of 6. Now how do these relate to each other? If I have a look, if my term was 1, the square was of 2. If my term was 2, the square was supposed to be of 3. If my term was 3, the square was supposed to be of 4. That means if my term is 25, so the square is supposed to be of 25 plus 1, which is 26 square, and this would give us what? 26 square should give us 676 as the answer, and the final answer would be what? It can be said that it's supposed to be 123 over 676 as the answer for this sequence. Question 14. Question 14 says that the lowest common multiple LCM of n and 360 is 16200. Find the value of x and the value of y. Now value of x is right here and value of y is right here. Now we need to know that n is 2 into 3x into 5y, and n and 360, and the factor of 360 is going to be what? Let's check it real quick. The factors of 360 would basically be, we'll do prime factorization, so 360 over 2, that would give us 180, again divided by 2, that would give us 90, again divided by 2, that would give us 45, divided by 3, that would give us 15, divided by 3, that would give us 5, and then divided by 5, that would give us 1. So that means these factors of 360 is going to be 2 cube into 3 square into 5, and then it says that the lowest common multiple of these is 16200. Now, what we're going to do, we need to know that LCM of any two factors is basically the highest possible number of the combination. Now, what that means is basically, let's have a look at this. Now, I'll again do prime factorization of 16,200. So this would be 8,100, I believe. Again, divided by 2, this should be 4050, I think. Let me check. 8100 divided by 2, that is for 4050. 4050 divided by 2, again what will we get divided by 2? That should be 2025. And then we can't divide it with 2, now we'll divide it with 3, so it should be 675. And then we divide it with 3, again this would be 225. And then we divide it with 3 again, and what do we get? We get 75 as the answer. Yes, 75. We divided with 3, we get 25, and now we divided with 5, so it gives us 5, and then 5 ones, all right. Now what this means is these factors were supposed to be 2 cube and 3 power 4 and 5 square. So 2 cube and 3 power 4 and 5 square. Now what this means is that, let's see what is the highest possible combination of these two that would give us this. So this is 1, this is 3, so hence we select this, and then out of these two, the answer should be 4. So 4 is greater than 2, which means over here we should have had 4. And then when we have a look at this, so one of these two had to be 2 for this answer to be 2. So that means this is supposed to be 2 for this case. What this means is n is going to be 2 into 3 power 4 into 5 square, where x was the power on 3, which is 4, and then y was the power on 5, which is 2. Now there could be other ways of solving this as well, but I find this to be the easiest. Now for part B, we are supposed to find the highest common factor of n and 360. Now keep in mind, this is supposed to be the smallest possible combination or smallest possible number. So the smallest number between 2 power 1 and 2 power 3 is going to be 2 power 1. And then for 3 square and 3 power 4, the smallest number is going to be 3 square. And then for 5, let's see the smallest number, which is power 1. So 5 power 1 is going to be the smallest out of these three. So what this means is 2 into 3 square, 2 into 3 square into 5, and this would give us 90, which means the highest common factor of this case is going to be 90. Keep in mind, the lowest common multiple is basically the highest number in the combination, and HCF is the lowest number in the combination. So that's the trick in this case. Now part C, it says k is a positive integer where n is a cube number. Find the smallest value of k. Now k is a positive integer, which we are still not sure what that is. And then it says when we multiply k and n, it should give us a cube number. So what was n? N was 2 into 3x into 5y, which was actually 2 into 3, 4. Let's write this down. So n is going to be 2 into 3 power 4 into 5 square. I believe this was the case, right? Yeah. And then when we multiply this with k, it should be a cube number. Now what that means is k is such a number that when it's multiplied, this should give us multiples of 3 as powers. Now what multiples of 3 can we get? Now since this is already 1, for this to be the next multiple, this was supposed to be 3. That means, so we are supposed to multiply this with another 2's, 2 times 2, because we already had 2 for one time in this case, right? And then we will have to introduce two more 3's for this case, so that this becomes a multiple of 3. And then we will have to introduce one more 5 for this case, so this becomes a multiple of 3 as well. So what that means is I'm going to multiply it by 2 square, and then 3 square, and then 5, so that all of these powers turn out to be multiple of 3, because this was supposed to be a cube number. Had this been a square number, I would have looked for even numbers, the next even number. But for cube numbers, what we do is we look for multiples of 3 for such cases. And the answer for this case, 14C, is going to be 2 square into 3 square and 5. And that should be 2 square into 3 square and 5. And that should give us 180 as the answer. Question number 15 says the mass of a bag of potatoes is 2.5 kg. Correct to the nearest 0.1 kg. Write down the upper and the lower bound of the mass of bag of potatoes, right? So we need to write 2.5 kgs, and then we need to find the upper and lower bounds. Since this is close to or rounded off to 0.1, that means this value is being altered. We'll write the next value, that is 2.6, and the value that is underneath, that is 2.4. But keep in mind the upper and lower bounds are basically the middle values, which is going to be 2.55 and 2.45, right? Part B says the mass of a box is 8 kgs. Correct to nearest 0.1 kg. This is also rounded off. It says bags of potatoes are packed into the box. Calculate the upper bound of the total mass of a box containing 12 potatoes. Now, what this means is that there's a box plus 12 bags. And since I want the upper bound of the total, right? So what that means is if I want the upper bound of the total, I'll have to calculate the upper bound of the box and the upper bound of the bags multiplied by 12. So the upper bound of box is going to be 8. Let's calculate that, 8.0. The upper value above that would be 8.1 because it's closest to 0.1, but the upper bound would be 8.05 instead. So this has to be 8.05, right? And what we'll do is basically it's going to be 8.05 plus 12 times of the upper bound, which is 2.55 of the bag. So that's how you're going to get the maximum possible value for this case, which is 8.05 into 12 into 2.55, and this gives us 38.65 as the answer. Question 16 says that the population of the town decreases exponentially at a rate of X percentage per year, and then the population of the town on 1st January was this, and then it decreased to this in 2023. So keep in mind the formula for growth rate or decay is exactly the same as compound interest, but then we either use a positive sign or a negative sign depending on what the case is. For this case, it's negative, so what we're going to say that future value is equals to the initial or the starting value times 1 plus r over 100 times of what times of t, where f is what. Now since this was decay, the amount was decreasing, so this value has to be negative. So it's going to be 102,885 is equals to 120,000 times 1 minus r was what, that was x over 100 times of 3, because the time was 3 years from the starting point. Now what this will become is basically 102,885 divided by 120,000 is equals to 1 minus x over 100 power of 3. Now when we solve this further, it's going to be, because it's cube on this side and I want to make x the subject, so I need to get rid of this cube. So this would become a cube root of this whole value, which is 102,885 over 120,000 is equals to 1 minus x over 100. So let's solve this. What will this give me? This gives me 0.95 is equals to 1 minus x over 100, and we can say that 1 would come on this side, or we can actually move this over here and that on the other side, This would become x over 100 is equal to 0.05, and this will be multiplied. So the x value would be what? That would be 0.05 times of 100, and this would become 5%. Now part B. Part B says after 1st January 2023, the population of the town starts to increase exponentially at a rate of 1.6% per year. Find the year in which the population on 1st January sorry for that. Yeah. Find the year in which the population on January 1st becomes more than 120,000, right? Now, it increases exponentially, and then we need to find what? We need to find the time basically. So the formula is going to be same. F is equals to I bracket 1 plus R over 100 times T. Now this time it increases exponentially, hence it's going to be a positive sign instead of a negative sign, and then we know the future value is the future value has to be greater than 120. So what we'd say, 120 is the future value, and then this amount should be greater than 120. So we include a sign of inequality, and then the starting value was of the time on 1st January 2023, which is 102,885 times 1 plus R. Do we know rate? It's 1.6 over 100, and the power is unknown, which is T. Now this value will be divided on the other side, so it becomes 120,000 over 102,885. Time is equals to, it becomes 1.016 power of T. Now let's see what happens. For this case, it's going to be 120,000 divided by 102,885. This value turns out to be 1.166 is equals to 1.016 power t. Now we need to do trial and error. We discussed this last time as well, that we need to do trial and error to find this value of t. Now what will we do? We will randomly plug in values of let's suppose 2, 4, 5, and maybe 10, and let's see where this value turns out to be same as 1.166. 1.016 power, let's try 1.016 power 5. This is what? This is 1.08. It's still not close, so maybe let's use 10. So for 10, it turns out to be 1.17. It's greater. Let's see, 1.06 power 9. So for power 9, it turns out to be 1.9. All right. So I have the answer. So 1.166 is equals to or greater than equals to, for this case less than equals to, is 1.016 power 9, right? So for this case, this value turns out to be 1.15, which means we do not accept this. Why? Because this value is still smaller. This value is still smaller than this. So what I'm going to say, 1.166 is actually lesser than when the value for 1.016 with the power of 10, because this would result in what? This results in the value 1.17. So which means now this value itself is greater than 1.166, which means the time is going to be 10 years. But let's see what the examiner demanded. The examiner said find the year in which the population in 1st January becomes more than 120. So we know from 2023 it was supposed to be plus 10. 2023 plus 10, so this would become what? This would become 2033 for this case. Let's move on. It says sketch the graph of each of the function. It's supposed to be y is equals, and then show the value where each of the graph intersects y-axis. This is very important. We know that y is equals to x cube is drawn in this manner like this, but since it has a -3 with it, that means the graph would slightly move downwards in this order, where it would intersect what? It would intersect -3 at this point. Now y is equals to 3 power x is what? This is an exponential graph. An exponential graph is always drawn in this manner like this, but we are supposed to write the intercept as well, and intercept is what? That is y-intercept y-axis, so that means x is going to be 0. When I do y is equals to 3 power 0, that means y value would be 1, which means that this particular value is supposed to be 1. Question 18. Question 18 says the equation of the line is y is equals to x over 5 plus 3. Write down the gradient of line L. Now, what is the gradient of line L? Let's compare it with y is equals to mx plus c. So, y is equals to x times plus 3. And when you compare it with y is equals to mx plus c, you know the gradient is going to be 1 over 5 because it's similar to y is equals to mx plus c. So, the gradient is going to be 1 over 5 for this case. Now, part B says line M is parallel to line L. Line M crosses x-axis at point A. Now what happens is line M crosses x-axis at point A. This is the point. And it says that and the y-axis at point B, and it intercepts here at point B. The coordinates of point A are 15 and 0. The coordinates of point A are what? That is 15 and 0. And what we know is basically show that the coordinates of point B. We need to find out the coordinates for this. Now we need to understand that since these two lines are parallel, the gradient is going to be same. So we know that gradient of M is going to be 1 over 5 as well. And we have one of the coordinates is 15 and 0. And since this lies on y-axis, that means this is going to be let's suppose this is going to be x value is going to be 0, so it's going to be 0 and y over here. All right, so what we say is basically for the coordinates 15, 0 and 0 and y, the value for m is going to be 1 over 5. So that means 1 over 5 is equals to y minus 0 or 0 minus 15, and then this would be what? Minus 15 times of 1 is equals to 5 times of y, and the value for y would be what? That would be y is equals to minus 15 over 5, and that gives us minus 3 for this case. Hence this coordinate is going to be what? 0 and minus 3. So we can say hence shown, and what we can say is hence shown. Part 2, it says line N is perpendicular bisector of the line joining point A and point B. Line N crosses the x-axis at point C. Now, it says which line? It says line N is perpendicular bisector. So that means the gradient for line N is going to be what? Let's find it out first. The gradient of line N is going to be minus of 5y, because the gradient of m was 1 over 5. We know that the gradient of two perpendicular lines is always negative reciprocal to each other. So this is the information that we've received so far. It further says that it's supposed to be a perpendicular bisector. Now bisector means this means 90 degrees and this means midpoint, right? This means what? This means midpoint. Now we need to find the midpoint of A and B. How do you find that? Let's do it real quick. We have the coordinates A, that was 15, 0 and 0 minus 3. So midpoint of 15, 0 and 0 minus 3 is going to be what? Let's find it out real quick. So for that, what we're going to do is it's going to be 15 plus 0 over 2, comma, 0 minus 3 over 2, and the coordinates turn out to be 15 over 2 and minus 3 over 2. Now these are the midpoints. Now we know that the equation of the line N is going to be in the format of y is equals to mx plus c, because it's a straight line where the gradient we know that was minus 5, so it's going to be what? Minus 3 over 2. We use these coordinates of the midpoints. Minus 3 over 2 is equals to minus 5, the gradient of the new line, and then the x coordinate, which is 15 over 2 mx, and then we add a c to it, plus c. So what happens right now is basically minus 3 over 2 is equals to minus, what will this give us? 5 into 15 divided by 2, minus 75 over 2 plus c, and the value for c will basically be minus 3 over 2 plus 75 over 2, and this would be what? Minus 3 plus 75 divided by 2. This is going to be 36. Now what we can say for this part is the examiner said the line N crosses the x-axis at point C. Now, since it crosses the x-axis, we know that y is going to be 0 for this case. For this equation, y would be what? Y would be 0. Now, what we can do is, we can use the same equation, which was y is equals to the gradient of this line was minus 5 x, and we know the y-intercept to be 36, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to plug in the value y as 0 for this case, because we are supposed to find the x-intercept. And to find the x-intercept, what this would mean is basically x is equals to, or 5x is equals to 36, and x would be equals to 36 over 5, and the value would be what? That would be 7.2. So we can say that the answer for this case is going to be, the x-axis is going to be 7.2. As we discussed, we found the x value, and y we already plugged in as 0. So this value is going to be 0 for this case, because it was intersecting at x-axis. Now, question 19 says a group of 22 students are asked if they study economics or history. The Venn diagram shows the results. Write down the number of students who study both economics and history. So we know this is economics, this is history, and the students who study both is going to be the intersection point, which is represented by 5. Now, the next part says that find n of, we need to find the quantity, basically the quantity, we need to find the quantity of E intersection H prime. Now, what does that mean? Now, E intersection H prime, if you're confused on how to solve these, I would suggest that you name every separate region with a different letter or a number. So A, B, C, and D. Now, since it says E intersection H prime, so let's find what H prime is. H prime is basically all the values except for H. So that means we have A and B in H prime. So it's going to be A and B. And E is going to be what? Let's trace what E is. For the case of E, we know this is E. Hence, this values would be B and C for this case. Alright. So it's going to be what? It's going to be B and C. Now, we need to understand that there is an intersection between these. So for intersection between these two cases, we look at the common alphabets. So it's going to be B, which means this region is what examiner is demanding. And let's see what the quantity was for this case. It was supposed to be 7. So that's how you do it. Now, part C says 3 students from the group are selected at random. Find the probability that they all study history. Now, 3 students are selected at random, and we need to find the probability that they all study history. Now, what that means is it's supposed to be history. Now, 3 students are selected. So what we'll say, let's suppose there is a selection of 3 students and all of them were supposed to take history. So history, history, and history. Now, how many students of history do we have? We have 5 plus 4, 9 students of history from a total of 22. So what that means is the first case, it's going to be 9 over 22. But when we select a second student, the case is going to be of without replacement, because if you're selecting a student, that option wouldn't be available for us anymore. So hence it's supposed to be multiplied with 8 over 21. The student of history would be removed from the total and from history itself. And when we select a third student, the same concept will be applied, and hence it would be 7 over 20. So the probability for this case is going to be 9 into 8 into 7 upon 22 into 21 into 20, and the answer turns out to be 3 over 55. Now, there's one more thing that we need to understand, that for this case, we will not be applying the concepts of arrangement. We will not be multiplying it with any number, because all 3 of these are the same letters, because we are picking first as history, second as history, and third as history as well. So even if you arrange or split these alphabets, it won't make much of a difference. Now it says y is inversely proportional to x minus 3 square, and then y is equals to 4, x is equals to 7, and we're supposed to find the value of y when x is equals to minus 2. Now, since the examiner does not demand any formula or the value of k, so we'll do it directly. So we would say that situation A is equals to situation B, and what that means is it's going to be y times the inversely proportional value, which is x minus 3 square of the first case should be equals to y times x minus 3 square of the second case. All right. Now, what is the first case? This is the first scenario where y is 4 and x is 7. So we'll plug in y as 4 and x as 7. So it's going to be 7 minus 3 square is equals to the scenario B where x is minus 2. So we'll say y into minus 2 minus 3 square. And what happens is it's going to be 4 times of 7 minus 3 is that is 4 square is equals to y times of minus 5 square. And what happens is basically minus 5 square, and what happens is basically 4 into 4 square is 16 is equals to y into minus 5 square is 25, and the value for y is equals to 4 into 16 over 25. Let's see. So this would be 2.56. Now, since this was the case of inversely proportional, we did the case situation A is equal to situation B. Had this been directly proportional, we would have used the concepts of a ratio method where these values would have been cross multiplied. Question 21 says that 2x plus 1 upon x plus 4 is equals to 5. X plus 5, 2x plus 1 over x plus 4 plus 5 is equals to x, and you must show all your working and give your correct answer, give your answers correct to 2 decimal places. Now let's see. So what we'll do is we will arrange this a bit. So 2x plus 1 over x plus 4 is equals to x minus 5, and then since this number is this thing is being divided over here, so it will be multiplied on the other side. 2x plus 1 is equals to this would be multiplied with the whole thing. So what we'll do, keep in mind that this thing will be multiplied with the whole numbers on the right hand side, right? Please make sure you do not make a mistake where you multiply x plus 4 with just minus of 5. No, that is not going to be correct. So it's going to be x minus 5 times x plus 4. And when we open this, what happens is basically it's going to be 2x plus 1 is equals to x times x, that gives us x square, and then x times 4 gives us plus 4x, and then minus 5 times x gives us minus 5x, and minus 5 times 4 gives us plus 20. Now when we solve this further, it's going to be x square minus 1x plus 20, and then we move these numbers on the right hand side, so minus 2x minus 1 is equals to 0. This and this will be solved, this and this will be solved. Now what happens is basically um so what happens is basically, oh, actually we made a mistake over here, this part. This was supposed to be minus 5 plus 4, that gives us minus of 20. Apologies for that. So what happens now is basically this would be x squared, and then minus minus, that would give me minus 3x, and then plus 20, and sorry, this was minus because we corrected it just this time, so it was minus 20, and minus 1, that would give me a minus 21 is equals to 0. Now this turns out to be a quadratic equation. We can use quadratic equation using numerous methods, the first one being factorization, the second one being completing squares, or the third being quadratic formula. Now, which one do we prefer? Because the examiner said that the answer is supposed to be in 2 decimal places, so we will not waste much of our time and we'll move on to quadratic formula. So, we know that the equation is x square minus 3x minus 21 is equal to 0, where the value of a is going to be 1, the value of b is going to be minus 3, and the value of c is going to be minus of 21. Now what we can say is this will basically be x is equals to minus b plus minus root of b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now what I'm going to do is we'll just plug in the values. So it's going to be minus minus 3 plus minus root of b square is going to be minus 3 square 4a and minus 21 whole divided by 2 times a, right? So what this would become is going to be minus minus, that is plus 3 plus minus root of 9 plus 4 times 21 is 84 over 2. Now we can say that this is going to be plus 3 plus 9 plus 84 along with root, that gives us 9 plus 84 along with a root would give me root of 93, which is 9.64. 9.64 divided by 2, or it would be x minus 9.1, sorry, it's going to be 3 minus 9.64 divided by 2. So the two answers are going to be plus 3 divided by 2. This is going to be 6.32. Or the other one is going to be 3 minus 9.64 divided by 2 as minus 3.32. Now these are going to be the answers. Make sure that you give the answer in 2 decimal places as the examiner demanded. Now this question was for 6 marks and I think this was very easy to score. Question 22. Question 22 says that ABCD is a field. A straight path crosses the field from B to D. Now this path B to D, and it says calculate AB. Now how do we calculate AB? It's this line that we're supposed to find, and we know that this is a right angle triangle where this value is unknown. Let's name this Y. This angle is 42 and then this is 495. So we know that since this is a right angle triangle, we can apply the rules of trigonometric ratios, and which is going to be cos theta. Cos of 42 is equals to adjacent, which is this side is opposite, this side is adjacent, and this side is hypotenuse. So what we're going to say is cos of 42 is equal to adjacent, which is y, over hypotenuse, which is 495, and the value for y is going to be 495 times cos of 42, and the answer should be what? That should be 495 into cos of 42, and the answer turns out to be 367.85, which would be 367.9. Now it says show that the angle BDC is 61.5. Now we need to prove the angle DDC, this angle. We need to prove this angle theta, that this turns out to be 61.5. Now in order to prove this, we need to see that we have a triangle on this side which is not a right angle triangle, and then we know 3 lengths of this triangle as well, and 1 angle is missing, which means we are supposed to apply the rules of non-right angle triangle where cosine could be solved, right? So we can say that cos of theta, no, not cos of theta, sorry, we can say that a square is equals to b square plus c square minus 2bc cos of theta, or cos of a, whatever you call it, 2bc times cos of a, where we know that the small a is going to be the paired length and capital A is going to be the paired angle. So this would be what? This would be 580 square. 580 square is equals to 495 and 620 squares. So 495 square plus 620 square minus 2 of 495 and 620 times cos of angle, right? So we'll just subtract these numbers on the other side. When we subtract this on the other side, what am I going to get? I'm going to get 4580 square minus 495 square minus 620 square, and this would give me minus of 293,025 is equal to, let's solve this part. This would give me 2 into 495 into 620, and this value would turn out to be minus of 613,800 times cos of a. Now if I want to find the angle, what will I do? I will basically be dividing this thing on the other side, because this is being multiplied on right hand side. Now since this is being multiplied, I'll divide it on the other side, and we can say that cos of a is equals to 293,025 over minus 613,800, negative cancelled, and we can say that a is going to be cos inverse of the answer, which is this value basically, right? So let's do cos inverse. So cos inverse is going to be 293,025 upon 613,800. Let's see what the answer is. And it turns out to be 61.48. And A turns out to be 61.48, which is rounded off to 61.5. It will be 61.5, and it is shown as the examiner demanded. Let's move on. Now, part C says a second path crosses field from C to meet path BD at point X. So it crosses from C. Now let me erase all of this. If I erase all of this, it says that it crosses from C to meet the point BD somewhere on BD, right? Like this. Now let's see what it further says. It says that CX is the shortest distance from C to BD. Now CX is what? Now this path was supposed to be X. Now this was supposed to be the shortest distance. Now keep in mind, whenever there's a shortest distance, so what we do is the line from the point up until the from the point up until the line, where when we join these things together, this always forms a right angle triangle. Now this case would be shortest if there's a right angle triangle, all right? And then it says that Lara takes 6 minutes and 24 seconds to walk along the path CX. Now it takes 6 minutes and 24 seconds to walk along this path. Now we don't know what that distance is, but it takes Lara takes what? She takes how long, sorry? Lara takes 6 minutes and 24 seconds. All right. Now it further says that calculate Lara's average speed. Give your answer in kilometers per hour. Now this is going to be really nice because the minutes is in because the time is in minutes and seconds, and we're supposed to calculate this in kilometers per hour. Now we need to know that the formula for speed is distance over time, or average speed is total distance over total time. Now we know the time, but we don't know the distance. Now how can we calculate the distance? Now for that we may have to consider this right angle triangle, which is CD and X. So what we'll do, we'll draw the triangle CD and X, which will look a bit like this. Let's see, a bit like this. This is D, this is C, and this is X. This was the shortest distance, right? And this angle was 61.5. And do we know anything else? We know 620, which was this length. This was supposed to be 620. Now if I want to find this distance, what will I do? I will apply the rules of right angle triangles, which is SOHCAHTOA, or some people have curly brown hair till painted black, whatever you like. Either opposite and adjacent or perpendicular basis. What you're going to do is you will be applying the rule of sine theta, which says that sine theta is equals to opposite over adjacent, opposite over hypotenuse, sorry, it's opposite over hypotenuse. And with that logic, we know that sine of 61.5 is equals to opposite, which we don't know, that is Cx, upon the hypotenuse, which is 620. All right, and we can find the value of Cx. That will turn out to be 620 times sine of 61.5. So when we calculate this, what will this be? This would become 544.86. So Cx turns out to be 544.86. Now keep in mind that we are supposed to calculate the answer of speed in kilometers per hour. Hence we need the distance in kilometers as well, whereas this answer was in meters. Now how do I know this? Because we plugged in the values of 620 in meters, hence this value is in meters as well. Now if I want to convert this in kilometers, so Cx will be divided with 1000, so it would be 544.86 divided with 1000. It should give us what? It should be 0.545 kilometers, right? And then we know that we now have the distance. We need to find the time, and in order to find the time was already given, which was 6 minutes and 24 seconds. Now I'll have to convert this in hours as well, because the distance because the speed was supposed to be calculated in kilometer per hours. So we'll say time is equals to 6 minutes plus 24 minutes, which will be converted into, or 24 seconds, which will be converted into minutes. Hence it will be divided with 60. So this gives us 24 upon 60, and this would be 0.4. All right, so what that means is this time is going to be 6.4 of minutes in total. But this isn't sufficient either. We need to convert this further into hours. So when I convert this further, what I'm going to say is 6.4 divided by 60, and this would give me what? This would give me 8 over 75, or 0.1066, 0.1067 hours. Now we can plug in all the values in here. We can say that speed is equals to distance over time, right? We know that speed is equals to distance over time, and the value for distance was what? The value for distance was 0.545. So this is going to be 0.545 divided with the time, which is 0.1067, and we get the answer. Let's write it down real quick. 0.545 over 0.1067, and this would turn out to be 5.1 kilometers per hour, right? So this is how we do this part. Now, question number 23. Question 23 says the diagram shows a shaded area in a large circle with center O. The radius of the large circle is 10 centimeters. OAB is a sector of a small circle with center O. The radius of the small circle is 7 and the sector angle is 130 degrees. It further says that C is on the circumference of the large circle, where AC is equals to PC. So this part is same as this part, and it further states that these are the radiuses. Hence, this would probably, these two would be same triangles, equal triangles, and just calculate the percentage of the shaded area upon shaded area of the large circle that's shaded. So what that means is we are supposed to do shaded area upon the total area of the a large circle multiplied by 100. Now, how do we get shaded area? We need to find these three regions separately properly. Now, what three regions? Let me mark it for you. 1, 2, and 3. Now, the third part is really easy. Let's solve 3 first. Now, 3 is a sector, which means theta over 360 times pi r square. That should be the formula for area, where the small sector is of radius 7. So what I'm going to say, it's 130 degrees over 360 degrees into pi times 7 square, and let's see what the answer is. The answer is 55.59. So this turns out to be 55.59, and the unit would be centimeter squares. But we are not done yet. We need to find the two triangles. How do you find the two triangles? We know that this is not a right angle triangle, and hence we might have to apply some rules of trigonometry. We know that this is the radius of the larger circle, which was 10, and we know that this is the other length 7. Now if this is a non-right angle triangle, now I will probably be needing half into AB sine C as the formula for half AB sine C as a formula to find area of one such triangle. For that, we probably need the angle between the two radiuses. What I'll do is I'll basically be subtracting 130 from 360. I will get the sum of these two angles, and the next step that I'll do is basically divide it with 2 to find the one such angle. So this would be what? This would be 360 minus 130 divided by 2, and this is 115. So this angle is supposed to be 115. So what that means is I can apply the formula for the triangle, which will be half times A and B, which is 7 into 10. 7 into 10 times sine of 115, and we will multiply it with 2 at the end, because there were two such equal triangles. So that would give me the total area, and this would be 7 into 10. Actually, this 2 and this 2 can be cancelled as well. So we can say 7 into 10 into sine of 115, and this would become what? This would become 63.44 as the answer. Now this becomes, so this becomes what? This becomes 63.44. Now we know that shaded area is going to be 63.44 plus 55.59, and the total area is going to be pi r square, where the radius for the larger circle is 10. The radius, as we know, the radius for larger circle is 10, so it's going to be pi times 10 square, and we can multiply these values now. So we can say this is what these values would be pi 100 pi, so 63.44 plus 55.59 divided with 100 pi and the whole thing multiplied with 100 to find the percentage of the shaded region. That would be what? 63.44 plus 55.59 answer divided by 100 pi. 100 pi, and whatever we get we multiplied with 100, and what we get is going to be percentage shaded would basically be 37.88 percentage. Now this is how I can solve this question. Now let's move on to another part. Question 24. Now question 24, is this the last question? Yes, it is. So question 24 says that Owen records the mass of each of 250 onions. The histogram shows the results. Now it says show that there are 28 onions with a mass of 200 grams or less. Now we know that this is 200 grams and we need to show that there are 28 onions. That means we are supposed to find the frequency. So what we'll do is basically we will check what the frequency density is, and this frequency density turns out to be 0.7, and we will check what the class width is, and this class width from 160 to 200 is going to be 40. So what are we going to say? We are going to say that frequency density is equal to frequency over class width, where frequency density is 0.7 is equals to frequency over 40, and we can say that f is equals to 40 into 0.7. That should give us 28, I believe. 40 into 0.7, that is 28. So 28 we would say hence shown. Part B. It says calculate an estimate of the mean mass. You must show all your working. Now we need to understand this is not a group data. This is not an ungrouped data. This seems like a grouped information because of the histograms. And the formula for mean is basically summation of fx over summation of f. Where if we have a look now, what informations do we have? We do not have the frequencies yet. We only have the densities and the frequency for this case, which is 28. We know the frequency for this case, which is 28. We'll find the frequencies of the other cases. So we will multiply 3.9 times to 20, actually 200 to 220. So this would be 3.9 times 20. The class width, which will turn out to be 78. The frequency for this case is 78. And then let's see, for this case the class width for this case is 20 as well, and the frequency density is 4.5. So we would do 4.5 into 20, that is 90 for this case. And let's try for the last one. The class width is going to be 60 and the frequency density is 0.9. So when we multiply this 0.9 into 60, this would give us 54. Now these are the frequencies. We do have the frequencies now, but what is going to be the value for x? We need to understand that the value for x is basically the midpoint of these histograms of each of these bars, so which is going to be 180 and then 210 and then it's going to be 230 and it's going to be somewhere around here, which is 270. So it's 180 and then it's 210 and then it's going to be 230 and then this is going to be 270. All right, and we know that over here this is the frequency and this is the midpoint of each of the group data for the case of continuous data. All right, now what we can say is we multiply all of these numbers together, the orange with the green number, and then we divide it with sum of frequencies, which is already given over here to be 250. Now we can say that 28 times 180, this is 28 times 180 plus 78 times 210 plus 90 times 230 plus 54 times 270. Now this is sum of frequencies that we calculated, and we divided with sum of this was sum of fx that we calculated, and now we divided with sum of f, which was 250, we know from the question, and we will divide it right here, and let's see what the answer turns out to be. To 180 plus 78 into 210 plus 90 into 230 plus 54 into 270 divided with 250, and the answer turns out to be 226.8. So that is going to be it, I think. I hope you understood the lecture and you understood the questions. Let me know in the comments whichever past paper you'd want me to solve next. So that's about it. See you next time. Allah Hafiz.